All right, everybody, welcome back. Second episode of How to Make a Few $1,000. Co-host Sammy Mattingly. Sammy, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking, Fred.
Sammy's doing well, and we got John King Jr., director of the Trinity High School Annual Fund. John, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, guys, I appreciate y'all having me on.
Yep. So for those who don't know, they're listening. Sammy and I went to Trinity High School in Louisville, Kentucky. John also went to Trinity High School, graduated just a couple of years ahead of Sammy and myself, and he's back working there directing the annual fund. John, do you want to take just a minute before we jump into it, just kind of explain that role and what you're doing for the high school?
Yeah, absolutely. So, a couple years before you graduated 2008, so I feel old compared to you guys, but no, being back at Trinity in this role as the annual fund director, my main goal is to raise funds for financial aid to ensure that every guy has an opportunity to go to Trinity to become a man of faith and a man of character. So every interaction, every connection that I make with alumni, I'm hoping that Trinity made a good enough impact on them, and I'm able to retell the story enough to have them support by sharing the story for one, and then financially by providing that necessity of tuition assistance. So that's what I've been doing lately.
That's
That's awesome.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
John,
And
do you know just off the top, just the percentage of students that are on some sort of aid or close to that
Yeah.
percentage?
So close to our whole student body is 40%. This
Hmm.
past school year, 45% of our incoming freshmen were on some sort of tuition assistance. And we're able to meet about 65% of that need. So there's still plenty of room for us to make up ground there to provide more for these students. Um, but we gotta keep chugging away and trying to find creative ways to raise that money. So it's been a good experience so far.
Absolutely. I think that number is a lot higher than people would kind of anticipate or
Yeah.
expect on the outside looking in. So wanted to
a
ask that.
1,000%.
It is.
Yeah, I
It's
think
surprising. But our mission since day one has to enroll the most diverse student body, socioeconomically, demographically, that we can possibly do. We want to open our doors to as many young men as possible so they can have that experience.
yeah.
Yeah, as
And
it
that's
should.
that's that's huge because I think there is kind of like Sammy alluded to it, kind of a misconception that maybe you need to be a wealthier family or have a lot of money to be able to attend a private school, private high school like Trinity. And I think it's super important what the annual fund is doing and just getting the message out there of like maybe you're not 100% certain if you can send your kid here, but come have a conversation with us and we might be able to find a creative solution to make it happen. It's like you never know until you have that dialogue. So that's a good transition into we'll call it the first segment. What are you building? I know you kind of touched on what you were working on with
Sure.
Trinity, but if you maybe want to elaborate on that, where you see that maybe at a bigger scale.
Yeah. So Trinity is unique in the fact that it's only been around for about 70 years, a little bit more than that. Um, but with that, we have about 18,000 alumni. My job, what I'm trying to build, is a more connected network between those alumni. Um, and so right now, I'm trying to broaden our reach, whether that's through social media, through digital platforms such as mass communicating, through email, text messaging. But how am I sharing that story with different generations, and how am I connecting those generations together? So it's no secret that this younger group of alum are more technically savvy. They tend to you know I mean, they're on the front end of a lot of this technology and what's coming through nowadays. I'm not a big TikTok guy, but I know I know younger people are using it, and that's just one example. So,
Yeah.
how are we communicating with them in the best way that they communicate, and how are we continuing to communicate with our alumni who do like physical forms of communication, and whether that's in person or by mail and things of that nature. So, what I'm building is a very cohesive network of our alumni, and trying to build on what's already been established.
That's great. I guess on the network question, or the network goal, I guess the network can kind of mean a whole lot of things. And, I'm sure it's like you have these social media platforms, but when you envision a network, I would imagine you envision, dialogue back and forth with
Yeah.
all the people in the 18,000. So, would the goal be to kind of like you were saying, like leverage these social media platforms to facilitate that dialogue where, alumni are just randomly connecting and forming relationships, maybe with alumni in the cities that they're living in they didn't otherwise know about, or
Yeah, so there's different ways that we like to network. One of them, and you guys have been great at coming to these things, is our alumni business circle. So that's an in-person opportunity for you to meet other alumni from different generations. And that's more of a professional networking um, platform to where you can share what you're doing in the business world, and make some good connections. That way, you guys can support each other in business. Whether you're going to be sending each other referrals or using each other for your services, but also connecting you back to the school in a place that maybe laid the foundation for where you guys got in your career. So, in person wise, that network has been really good, and we've seen a lot of growth as far as participation goes there. Um, and then, the other piece of that is yeah, how are we connecting on social media? So recently we rolled out a new Facebook alumni page where we're sharing specific milestones. We are telling the story of Trinity, kind of giving a glimpse in the past of what has taken place on campus, some great accomplishments by our alumni, and then we're also going to celebrate things that are happening presently. So just trying to extend that reach in different ways. Hopefully that answered your question.
no, it did.
Okay.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Sammy, you got anything to add there?
Not necessarily a question, but I do think it's special. And I think you've done a great job thus far of making the connections, not only within classes, right? Like that's something that is easier to do. I mean, you were talking about class lunches before we started recording, like within your class of '08 or our class of 19, like those are connections that are established already. But I think the true power is when I'm talking to a guy from the class of '63 and we have that same shared bond. So I think creating that, I guess it's inter-class connections are really powerful, and you've done a great job at thus far. So excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. We've had a good group of people come through Trinity and work in the foundation office that have
Hmm.
have set this thing up, and spent years building it. So I've come into a great situation, and I'm just trying to use the skills that I have from the corporate world, and kind of bring them into Trinity. So that business networking is a good piece, but I also wanted to touch on the fact that we try to build these connections in several different ways. So
Hmm.
just last week, spiritually, we had our alumni retreat. And so you're connecting on a different level with different generations of alumni, connecting with yourself, connecting with your faith, and spending a few hours on a Saturday just to build that bond even deeper. And so, there's so many different things that we do for alumni, and I've enjoyed just being part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And as someone who went to that event, it was incredibly special, and we'll definitely be back next year and the year after that. So
Awesome. I
any
love to hear
any
it.
Trinity alumni listening, definitely attend that next year.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, and for some of the people maybe listening that aren't a part of the Trinity family, our recent graduates, that are maybe wondering, does this type of model exist in other high schools? John, have you seen any other high schools kind of looking this hard or making such an effort at connecting alumni, kind of in all the channels you're looking at, or do you sort of feel like you know you and your team and the facility at Trinity, faculty at Trinity is kind of leading the way in that capacity?
I think I think high schools out there do a variety of things to try to connect with alumni. but my job is to focus on what we do and how well we can do it. Um, so, we've had people shadow us for certain events. We had several last year come to the alumni retreat to see how we did it, which to us is a compliment, because it means that, they think we're doing a good job.
Mhm.
So, with that, we also want to continue to improve. So I'm a competitor, man. I played football in high school. I played in college. So my job as a football player is to always get a little bit better each day. And so how are we doing that with these events? We're getting feedback from our alumni. We're trying to implement suggestions, and we're trying to increase that reach for the next time we have the event. So I really just focus on how well we're doing it.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think I think that's a great segue into our
It
next
is.
segment, which is sponsored by the Trinity Alumni Annual Fund, or just Trinity Annual Fund. What's the official title?
We'll say the Trinity High School Foundation. How about that?
Sponsored by the Trinity High School
You
Foundation.
got it. There you
Segment
go.
number
Yep.
2. What does success look like for you, John?
Success would be the continued support from the strong classes that we already have. We have several classes from the 60s, 70s, 80s that have done a tremendous job of supporting the annual fund.
Mhm.
Um, and then how do we bring in the younger guys? How do we continue to reconnect them? Um, you know, remind them that this place was not just a place they graduated from high school, but it's a large fraternity, and it's a place that shaped kind of who they are today. How do I tell that story, and how do I get them back in the fold?
Mhm.
Not just from a financial standpoint, but from the standpoint of how are we going to support each other as alumni, and how are we going to continue to bring in the next generation and the next generation. So we got to put things in place, and we got to continue to evolve with society to make sure we're doing what we need to do to get those guys back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Does do you guys do you look at any metrics? Are you ever, we want this many followers or this many people at, these in-person events, or, we want to schedule X more events next year? Or is it kind of just more of like you said, like broad, holistic, like let's keep trying to be better and better every year?
Yeah, so we certainly have data that we can pull, to see who's come first time more than once, what classes are represented the most, um, and certainly we look at those, and we got to send our appreciation to the people who have continuously supported us, and we would not be here today without them. And so, the next question is, we have low participation from other classes, and why is that? How do we figure that out? Maybe I connect with couple people from those classes and try to get them together. Kind of like those class lunches I was talking about, Sammy.
Mhm.
How do we get them back together? How do we connect them with each other first and foremost, so that they remember and they appreciate what they went through when they were 14, 15, 16, those young
Yeah.
ages. Yeah,
Absolutely. So it's interesting that data is really driving, part of the decision making then.
absolutely. I mean, you can't just guess, so
Right.
if I'm guessing, then I'd be gambling. Um, so, and the important thing is to see what we're doing well, and how do we do better at certain things. So
Mhm.
I'm always
I
looking at
think
it.
yeah, I think the flip side of that conversation or kind of it pairs nicely with it is goal setting too. Um,
Yep.
do you all sit down and kind of set goals, whether it be, quarterly, annual goals to achieve?
We do. Yeah, we have internal conversations all the time. I got a good team of about 5 people, and
Mhm.
each person does something different, which is nice. We kind of all kind of stay in our own different lanes and do what we do best, which makes our team successful.
Mhm.
I think we do a good job of communicating what we're trying to accomplish throughout the year. We have a meeting next week to kind of go over our calendar for this year, and we're in a unique spot because we're on that academic calendar where our year goes from July 1st to June 30th.
Mhm,
So, you set that calendar up sometime in the winter to make sure we're going to be, not going into it blind, but we're going in with a good plan.
mhm.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I think, that does it for what success looks like for you. So, third main segment, I've kind of got a bonus segment at the end, but third main segment, Sammy, who's this segment sponsored by?
Sponsored by Mattingly and Financial Accounting, of
All
course.
There
right.
you go.
Thank you, Mattingly and I Financial Accounting, for sponsoring the third and typically final segment of How to Make a Few $1,000. What makes you happy? John, we like to just kind of open it up to our guests and just raise the question, what makes you happy?
What makes me happy? Well, from a professional standpoint, knowing that my position directly impacts young men is huge. Something that I have a passion for. I'm helping in a small way for these guys to go through something that'll change their life and have that Trinity experience. It's something that I appreciated when I graduated. Took me a few years to get back involved, but once I did, and I remembered, who laid the groundwork and who taught me at that age and who kind of set my foundation, I grew to appreciate it a lot more. From a personal standpoint, um, what makes me happy is seeing my kids happy. I've got two young kids now. I've got a 5-year-old daughter and a 3-year-old son, and they kind of run the schedule on the weekends. But it's a great thing to be in right now, and I feel really blessed to be their father and to watch them grow and learn and starting to kind of figure out their lives in the early ages. But
Mhm.
I enjoy that part of my life.
Is it too early to start thinking about is your son going to be a football guy at Trinity? Is it too early for that?
I think he's going to be a good athlete thus far. He likes to run. He likes to jump. He likes to hit baseballs. He's all about it. I actually did take him to a football game in the fall, and he said, "Daddy, I want to go down there." And I said, "You can't go down there yet, buddy.
Not yet. Not yet.
Give it a few years, and I hope you get a growth spurt. We'll see."
Not yet. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So you touched on it like you were saying, these young men that go through Trinity, we all graduated. It's such a great experience and an impactful experience on that student body. Trinity is also a really big part of the St. Matthew's community. I mean, it's a great looking campus. I think people in the St. Matthew's community love it. They love the football games. I think they love everything about it. I'd be willing to say, with that being said, I know Trinity's always kind of expanding, and they've always got projects in the works. Is there any sort of project you could touch on this podcast about, is Trinity looking at any new construction or buildings or renovations coming up?
Yeah. So we're always continuing to grow our campus in some way, shape, or form, in a way that's conducive for the educational process. So, anytime we're making updates to the school, it's always going to be for the student experience.
Right.
How are we doing that? Are we giving them the tools they need to be successful? Um, I think we do have some good projects coming up that we're working towards. Um, that'll take some time, but anytime we're making these improvements to campus, there's a plan behind it. There's a reason behind it, and again, it's all driven by the students, and it's all based on the data. So students will tell us one thing, and we got to provide it for them, and that's kind of what Trinity's goal is. So. I'll just
Great.
leave it at
Well,
that for now. It
yeah, we're looking forward to seeing the future of the school and, being around for the alumni events and the business circles. And we've loved watching you take over this role and the great things you've done with it already and that we know you're going to do in the future. So John, thanks for coming on. How to Make a Few $1,000. I think it was a great segment. Sammy, you think I think that was a great episode.
Yeah, that was a fantastic episode.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's a
It
lot of
was good
fun.
talking to you, John.
Yeah, guys, and I'm right back at you. I've appreciated you all getting involved. I'd love to see your classmates continue to come out and join us. And I love seeing what you all are doing with your businesses as well. So it's been fun to get to know each other, and I appreciate you having me on.
Likewise,
Thank you,
John.
John.
Have a good one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, fellas. Yeah.
See ya.
See you.